Hey guys, what's up? It's Lainey, and today I'm doing my Smutathon wrap-up. If you don't know, Smutathon is a adult romance readathon that I host with one of my BFFs, Riley Marie, and we just had our third round of Smutathon. It was from June 3rd through the 9th. This was the most books I've read in a week. I somehow managed to beat my 8-book goal from last round with 9 books. So it was only one. I was really disappointed on the fact that I couldn't get 10, but the 10th book that I started I didn't finish before Smutathon ended. This is like the best round I've done because most of the books I read I really loved. Another first for me, I feel like, with readathons was that this is the first time I never strayed from my TBR. So all the books that I'm going to mention I've actually mentioned in my TBR video, except for one. There's one exception to that rule that was one book that I just decided to read, and you guys will see why, because I think it was my favorite book that I read for the entire week. So the first book that I read was one of the 5-star books, and that was The Swedish Prince by Karina Holly. This is the first book in her Royals romance series. I read the second book. They're all companions. I read the second book for Smutathon last year, and I really liked it. I rated it a 4-star. This one I rated a 5, but like now that it's like been a week, I feel like it's more like a 4.5, but I really, really loved it. It's my favorite Royals romance I've ever read, and I've read a lot of Royals romances. It's kind of like a Roman holiday type story, and there's the Prince of Sweden, who I was picturing Alexander Skarsgård for it the entire time. It kind of reminded me of one of my favorite shows is Shameless, and it kind of reminded me, the main character reminded me of Fiona, and like how she has all this pressure on her. She takes care and raises her brothers and sisters, and it's pretty much what if Fiona from Shameless met a prince. What would happen there? Yeah, I recommend it. The second book that I read was The Kiss Quotient by Helen Wang. I feel like everybody's read this book, so I'm just like behind on reading it. This follows a young woman with Asperger's who decides to hire an escort to teach her how to have sex, how to have a relationship, how to get comfortable with human touch. And I rated this one a 5-star. Like, it was so good. It was so cute. It was like both cute and hella steamy at the same time, and I loved that. Yeah, I like definitely cried a couple times. My anxiety was like really bad during some of the scenes. The third book that I read was Bad Saint by Monica James, and this was the one I was most excited to read. It's dark romance. That's my preferred subgenre of the romance category. It's definitely dark romance. This one kind of has the same setup of a lot of dark romances that I read. This young woman on her honeymoon gets kidnapped. This sounds so bad that I really dig these kind of stories. En route to Russia, their ship, because they're on a ship, gets shipwrecked. Her and one of the captors have to work together, and it kind of flips the whole dynamic, because once you're, stranded on an abandoned island, the rules don't really apply anymore, or the dynamics that were set up kind of are null at that point. I cannot wait for the sequel when it comes out in July, I believe. This one I rated 4 stars. I just really liked how Monica James really like flipped the script for a very typical dark romance setup. It is very, very dark, I will have to say, because there was a scene in there that even I wasn't expecting. Yeah, it was intense. The next book that I read was actually the one that I enjoyed the least. I ended up rating this one a 1-star. It was International Player by Louise Bay. I don't remember even really much of what it was about, because I found myself so bored while reading it that I was doing other things while I was like half listening to it, because there was just a point where I was just like, I need to finish this, but I'm not interested. I don't care about any of the characters. What really stood out to me was the fact that I felt like the 2 characters had no chemistry. I just didn't like any of their sex scenes. I didn't like them either separately as characters either. So that was the only dark mark on my really great reading week. The next book that I read was one of my all-time favorite books now. Wasn't even aware of it, because the great thing about Smutathon is that Riley and I get tagged a lot in so many things on both Instagram and on Twitter. And I always look at them because I'm like, what are other people reading, and what am I going to be adding to my TBR? This really great Instagrammer, her name is Darlene, I'll link her information down below. She posted a picture of her with this book, and I was reading what it was about, and she said it was like dark romance, Jasmine and Jafar. And I love villainships so much, and even though like Aladdin is my favorite Disney movie, Aladdin and Jasmine are OTP, but there was always like weird chemistry I felt like between her and Jasmine and Jafar. So the fact that someone has written a Jasmine and Jafar dark romance was like, I've been waiting my entire life for this exact book. Desperate Measures by Katie Robert. And yes, it is very dark romance. This is also the smuttiest book I read all week. Like there were so many scenes. No, I think every single sex scene that they had or there was, I was that meme, the Jasmine Masters meme, like, and I oop. Like that was literally me this entire book. Every single sex scene had me ooping. The great thing about this book is that the author, Katie Robert, she is going to be doing this as a series, like a wicked villain series. Like in this book, we do meet like Tinkerbell and Hook, and we also meet like my other favorite villain ship, Hades and Meg, and also we don't really meet Hercules, but the planned second book in the series is Hades, Hercules, and Meg, and I'm really excited for that book. I found a new favorite series this readathon, and that's always a good thing. I'm so glad that I saw Darlene reading this book, and thank you so much for tagging us in it, because both Riley and I ended up reading it that day that we were tagged in the Instagram post. That was the only time I strayed from my TBR, but it was worth it. That one I did rate 5 stars because on all the things that I was like wanting to happen in the book, it was being delivered on. The next book that I read was Dirty Headlines by LJ Shen. I rated this one a 3.5, 4 out of 5 stars. I really like this book. I think I'm like now on the LJ Shen bandwagon because I read Sparrow by her a few years ago and I did not like that book at all. And then the week before Smutathon started, I read Vicious, and that one was a 5-star read for me. And this one was pretty good too. This also had a really great setup. Basically, these two people have a one-night stand, and the girl ends up robbing him because she needs the money to pay for her bills. Fast forward like a month later, she gets this new job finally, and she walks in, and guess who is her new boss? And also the chemistry in this book was really great. I really liked that too. The next book I read was my new Alien Smut series. You guys know I've been reading Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon. I've read like 8 books in that series, and I can't for the life of me remember what most of the plots were about in a lot of the books. I don't remember a lot of the characters' names, but I'm always like enjoying it while I'm reading it, but then I don't really remember it a month later, but I still enjoy them. This one I read, new Alien Smut series, was Alien Instinct by Tracy Lawrence. I ended up really enjoying this. I did realize that I do not have a wing kink because these aliens have horns, wings, and tails, and there was a lot of questions I had about the wings, like how are they not getting tangled up? Like what if one cracks or gets bent, and then what happens then? Like is it painful? I was thinking way too much about the logistics during those sex scenes. I like this one because it explored more of like a galaxy type setting. They were to an extent kind of modern because the aliens in the Ice Planet Barbarian series are kind of hunter and gatherers, like that kind of era. So it was kind of nice to like kind of explore the galaxy, going to different like spaceports and stuff. So I did really like it. I do plan on reading more of that series. The next book that I read was Dragon's Lair by Chantel Fernando. I read this for out of my comfort zone because I don't like accidental pregnancy in books. It really just sours the reading experience for me. I rated this one a 2 out of 5 solely because the storyline was just not for me. However, this does take place in a motorcycle club, and I love motorcycle club type of stories. I read the Reaper's MC series by Joanna Wild. I've been reading that for like about a year, and now I found a new motorcycle club series that I will be reading. I do plan to read the rest of the books in the series because what I really loved about this book was the writing and also the secondary characters. I was getting really attached to some of the other MC brothers. This first book just like was not for me because she was pregnant the entire book. And yeah, I think I hated that more than getting pregnant in the last 10%. And then the last book that I read for Smutathon was another 4.5 star read, and that was Take the Lead by Alexis Daria. This book is basically Step Up meets Dancing with the Stars, and I was loving it. There's this dancer named Gina. She's been on Dance Off for the past 5 seasons, but she hasn't made it past the semifinals with her celebrity partner. She ends up getting an Alaskan survivalist reality star as her partner, and her producers kind of want this to be like a showmance of the season, but she doesn't want that. But they have so much chemistry, and this Alaskan survivalist reality star his name is Stone, is like the softest tall boy I have ever read, and I really loved both of them. They were just so cute, and like I love Dancing with the Stars. I think I said that in the last video, but like this book does a really good job of like going week to week and like having like the different aspects of what I love about Dancing with the Stars, like the packages, the rehearsal, the dances. There were so many times when they're like, okay, well, this week we're doing the Argentine Tango, and the Argentine Tango is my favorite ballroom dance. So I was like so excited, and I was like, I just loved it. Highly recommend this series. I do plan to read the second book in this series, which is the companion novel to Gina's roommate, and she's also a dancer on the show. And then the 10th book that I'd never finished, I was reading Lust for the one-word title by Kurjugi. This is like a secret society, 7 deadly sins type of story, and I like all of those things. So it kind of reminds me of Filthy Gods by R. Scarlett meets like The Skulls Riot Club. I am about like 25% into it, and I plan to read the rest of this book as well as the rest of the series because there's 7 books in it, and they're all written by like different authors, so I'm excited to read that series. That is all that I read for Smutathon. How did Smutathon go for you guys? If you participated, please let me know, and thank you guys all for joining in Smutathon if you guys did. I love the Smutathon week because I'm never annoyed to go onto Twitter. I'm always excited to like check out the hashtags and see what people are reading. Obviously, Smutathon will be back. We'll be back in the winter. That's kind of our thing, summer, winter. That's when Smutathon is. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you're new here, my name is Lainey. I make videos about books and writing, so if it interests you, please subscribe down below, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye!